Hey guys, it's Mr. Dwarm here, coming at you with a short lesson. I know you guys have been looking forward to a video or a lesson. Welcome to Pre-Calculus, and I hope this year is going to be fruitful for y'all. Here's if you look at the screen right quick, I have y'all's first lesson for you. It's known as the Pythagorean Theorem, and you guys may have well seen this before in the past. Just know that we will be looking at a lot of triangles. We'll look at a lot of trigonometry at the beginning of pre-calculus, probably for 3, maybe even 4 units. So I wanted to do a little recap on some geometry and some basic trigonometry. So if you look over here at your notes, I'm seeing the Pythagorean theorems. Before we move on, I want to let you guys know that it would be really helpful for you to print these notes out or use a notebook to work these out by hand. Not all of this can be done on a Word document, and of course you can work out all these steps comfortably and freely on a Word document. So I encourage you guys to have a notebook and maybe even draw your triangles. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get started with our little lesson. So if you can look at your notes, Pythagorean theorem has to do with right triangles, and the Pythagorean theorem is used to find missing sides of a right triangle. Sides A and B are called legs, so sides A and B are our legs. Side C is called the hypotenuse. Alright, so for any right triangle, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. That means the square of the hypotenuse is the sum of the squares of the other two sides. So let's see how that works out in an actual problem. So if you look at our first triangle, we have 8 and 13, which are our legs. 8 and 13 are going to be A and B respectively. You can interchange them because it doesn't matter which way your legs go. 8 can be B and 13 can be A also. So I'm going to say that 8 is A and 13 is B. Okay? So with that in mind, X is going to be C because X is our hypotenuse. A good way to recognize your hypotenuse is the side that is exactly opposite to your 90-degree angle. Okay? So let's see. So our formula is C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Let's use that here. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So I don't know what C is. C squared is actually going to be simply X squared. So A squared plus B squared will be 8 squared plus 13 squared. I just replaced A with 8 and B with 13. So if I want to find out what X squared is, I need to simplify and solve for X. So 8 squared is going to give me 64 plus 13 squared is going to give me 169. So X squared is 64 plus 169. Now, to solve for X, I need to take the square root of both sides. So X is going to be equal to square root of whatever 169 plus 64 is. Let me work that out. 169 plus 64 is going to be, let's see, that's 13. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So it's 233. Now we just need to find out what the square root of 233 is. You can use your calculator for that. I'm going to just go ahead and Google the answer. So it's 15.26. Is that it? 15.26. That's all that is. So X is 15.26. All right, so C is going to be 15.26. All right, that was pretty simple. Now, if you look at the next one, the triangle looks kind of contorted. All right, nothing to worry about. We still use our formula, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. just know that C will always be your hypotenuse, and a really good way to recognizing your hypotenuse is the side exactly opposite to your right triangle. So X here is going to be our hypotenuse. 27 and 22 will be our A and B. So I start replacing. Okay, C squared. I'm going to say that it's X because X is C. A squared is 27 squared plus B squared is 22 squared. Okay, so now I can go ahead and solve for X. I can simply go ahead and take the square root of both sides. Okay, so I have X equals square root of 27 squared plus 22 squared. Let's see what that looks like on a calculator. So here I have my friendly Desmos calculator. This does pretty much everything for me. So if you're interested in this, it's a free app that Desmos provides. So you can download it either on the App Store or on the Play Store. Now, let me try to plug in square root of 27 squared plus 22 squared. That's pretty easy. I pick my square root of 27 squared plus 22 squared, and that gave me 34.83. So I'm going to try to round this to 2 decimal places. So X is equal to 34.83. Pretty simple stuff, right? So let's look at a couple more of these. Actually, let's look at number 3. Here, we may have to do something else, something more. So if you notice, the side that they're asking for isn't exactly our hypotenuse. They're asking us, they're asking us to find one of the legs, but our formula doesn't change. It's still going to be C squared equals A squared plus B squared. With that in mind, we know that X is not going to be C. In fact, 9 is C because 9 is the side exactly opposite to my right angle. So 9 is C, 7 can be A, and X can be B. And now I start replacing stuff. All right, so 9 squared equals A is 7, so it's 7 squared plus B is X. I'll just say X squared. And now I simply solve for X. Let's see. I want to subtract 7 squared from both sides. So I have 9 squared minus 7 squared equals X squared. To solve for X, I take the square root of both sides. Now, back to my ye old Desmos calculator. I use my square root function. 9 squared minus 7 squared. I guess that was simple enough for us to do it by hand, which is, let's say, 5.66, which will round up to 5.70. All right, that was pretty simple too. So we're looking at solving equations. All right, probably 2 or 3 step equations. So the main difficult part is actually just simply setting up our equation. And once we set up our equation, the rest is cakewalk, I guess, right? So let's look at a slightly more difficult one. If you look at number 5, it's not exactly difficult. We just have to set it up, and then we're good to go. We don't exactly have one right angle here. Looks like we have a bigger triangle and 2 right angles that pop out of that triangle. So this triangle is split up into 2 right triangles. Okay, so these little markings mean that they are equal sides. So if that's 24, that side is also going to be 24. Now we know that this line in between is equal, so it looks like both of these triangles are the same. So if I find, let's see, they're just asking me for X. So if I find the X on one of these smaller triangles, then it's the same X for the other triangle also. So what I can do is I can isolate my calculations to just say, let's say, the one on the right. So I'm going to find the area of the one on the right. So I need to find x, which is one of my legs, and the entire bottom is 22. Since both of these triangles are the exact same thing, and the entire bottom side is 22, I know that the bottom leg of my triangle on the right is going to be 11. Because if these two are the same and the whole thing is 22, looks like it's being split into half. So one of my legs is 11. So let me go ahead and try to set up my Pythagorean theorem. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. Looks like I'm looking for one of the legs. I'll call that, x can just be a. All right, so c squared is 24 squared, because 24 is my hypotenuse, longest side, or the side exactly opposite to my right angle. 24 squared equals a squared is x squared plus b squared is 11 squared. So I can go ahead and solve for x by isolating it. So I subtract 11 squared from both sides. So on the left side I have 24 squared minus 11 squared left. On the right side, 11 squared and 11 squared cancel out to leave me with x squared. So finally I take the square root of both sides to solve for x. Busting out my ye old Desmos calculator. Let me take the square root of 24 squared minus 11 squared. And I'm left with 21.33. And that should be my answer for x. All right, there's a few more problems on here. I will drop the answer key under materials on your Google Classroom. Just know that these are simply practice problems, and I'm also going to leave you guys with a little homework which will be due by the end of next week.